So what I'll do is I'll switch over to just you for a moment, Kel, if you'd like to give us a brief introduction and a very short extract from a wonderful story from last year's anthology, Odd Voices, which is by the lovely Tonia Markou. And then we'll bring Tonia in to discuss the story with you and find out what they've been up to during this time.
Fantastic. Okay.
Okie dokie. So whenever you're ready, Kel, you're on.
Tonia Markou was our second place finalist for our first anthology that was out last year called Odd Voices. Her story, which we absolutely loved from the first time I read it. It was actually the second story, just second entry I picked up, and was instantly just, so captivated and so delighted that we'd been sent this story. It's a story which features a young neurodivergent protagonist and a lover of reptiles called Xander. And Xander's world is thrown off balance when his beloved pet lizard Hugo goes missing, and he has to launch a mission to find him again. So I'm just going to read you a very short extract just to give you a bit of a flavour of Tonia's writing. 21. That's how many facial expressions exist to show basic emotions. Right now, I'm trying to decipher the one on my mum's face. Eyes wide, hands clasped over her mouth while she's standing out in our little back garden. Brandon down on one knee in front of her, like a nobleman waiting to be knighted. Is she crying? No, she's laughing now. Hi!
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
How are you?
I'm very well. I mean, I am trapped indoors. I am back in the house arrest situation, but it's not like we're not used to it at this point.
Right, unfortunately, yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, and how are you, more importantly?
I'm good, thank you. I'm fine. A bit nervous, actually.
Oh, don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. This is just going to be a chat with some people watching.
Yeah, that helps. Thanks.
Can I ask where you're based in Germany, aren't you, Tonia?
Right.
So it's roughly at the same time zone. I think you're about an hour on from us, aren't you?
Right, an hour ahead. Yeah, it's
hour ahead. Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to kick this off. We're going to kick off all the interviews in a similar way by just asking all of our writers what their beginnings were in creative writing and what drew you to be doing it as a sort of passion or career.
Sure. Yeah, well, I've always been writing, actually, be it journaling or just for fun. I used to write stories with my sister just for fun, and little short stories. She used to give me 5 names or 5 things, nouns, and then I did the same, and then we came up with stories in 30 minutes, and they were awful but funny. Sometimes we still have them and read them, and yeah, just think about those good times. But I didn't take it too seriously until I think about 10 years ago. So I used to write in German. I started a novel, but I never finished, I have to admit. But yeah, I studied English literature, so I started writing papers in English. So I thought, okay, why not start doing something with creative writing? I'd like to challenge myself. And I joined an online community with writers, and got in touch with other writers, and this is where I first got feedback as well, and then I found this creative writing class online. It was a distance learning program, actually at a British university, the University of Lancaster. So I did this master degree in creative writing part-time for 2 years. And yeah, this is where I really started to take it more seriously and said, okay, I want to, get published, publish my short stories, because before I didn't even write a lot of short stories and I didn't think I was good at it. But yeah, I got more confident in my writing skills because of the degree and also the writing workshop where I got feedback and where I got to also critique other writers' work. That really helped with, noticing my weaknesses as well. And yeah, here I am, and still writing and currently querying my first YA novel. So it's very exciting.
Fantastic. I'm going to get onto that YA level novel a bit later.
Yeah.
But I think that's very familiar to me as well, to sort of start off writing as a little bit of creative play in your younger years, in your childhood, and then it tends to build up. I think it's very familiar to have, if you've got that kind of community for writing and you start to get that feedback, it does build your confidence getting feedback from people. What I find really astonishing about you, Tonia, is like, am I right in saying that English is actually your third language?
Yeah, it is. It is my third language. Yeah.
So as I understand it, you're from a Greek family but living in Germany.
Exactly. So my parents are both Greek. They emigrated to Germany a long time ago, and I was born and raised here in Germany. So yeah, yeah. Um, I always loved the English language though. So my sister is 3 years my senior, and she had English at school, and I didn't have English yet. And I always, she knew some things, and she used to listen to English songs, and I always loved to translate the lyrics because when I grew up, we still had CDs and we had the booklets, and I looked at the lyrics and I tried to translate them, but sometimes I couldn't find the right words because it was slang and American slang and rap. I couldn't understand a thing, but but still it was fun. So I'm familiar with English. I've been studying English for I don't know, over 20 years now. So
Is that taking over the creative side of your mind then? Would you say when you imagine stories, you're imagining them in English?
Yeah, actually I do. It's weird to write in German nowadays. I don't know. I sometimes I still want to try and see what happens, but it sounds so, I don't know, strange because I'm used to writing in English so much. Um, but yeah, I mean it has its downsides. It takes longer for me. Sometimes I can't find the right words or expressions, and then I have to leave it blank and come back later. So I'm a very slow writer. But yeah, it's still, I don't know, it's challenging, but it's also fun. And I think the English language is very flexible and beautiful. English is my favorite language, so.
I'm actually a big fan of German. That's the only other language I do speak a little bit. I do like German. I'd like to say I can do conversational German, but then me and Kim did visit Berlin recently, and I was like, I can understand a little bit when people are talking to me, but I'm not very good at talking myself.
Yeah, it's always easier to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was going to say, I think this is something I said to you when we were editing your story, was I was always really impressed by your economical use of language. You seem to be able to get across very much in very few words. And I think that in a way, having English not as your first language being a contributing factor in that. If you're having to think a little bit more about what you're putting into a sentence, you're not going to waste words. And I think that is a huge advantage to your writing, because like it does pack a lot into like a very small thing. And I understand you do flash fiction as well, which I imagine that's a big bonus for flash fiction.
Yeah, I'm still learning about flash fiction, but yeah, I think it definitely benefits my novel writing as well, to be concise and find the right words. But it's hard. It's really hard, actually, but it's fun. It's fun.
I think especially if you're writing for a YA audience, that's a great benefit as well, because with teen fiction, they don't want a lot of waffle. They want to be like sort of a bit more straight to the point and get to the sort of meat of the story fast. And there's a lot of adult novels that sort of like will take their sweet time to get to the point of things. So let's move on a little bit, talking about For Hugo. And I wanted to particularly ask, as I introduced, your main character, Xander, is a sort of neurodivergent protagonist.
Yeah.
And that was obviously perfect for our theme, which was like looking for voices that aren't represented as much. I mean, I think most people's touchstone when we talk about main characters on the autistic spectrum, people will probably name things like A Curious Incident of the Dog at the Night Time, but there are not a huge amount that you can point to which have I think there's a novel that I really like called Maggot Moon, which has a dyslexic protagonist, and that's written in an interesting way. But there aren't that many out there still, even with this sort of influx of wanting to present more different viewpoints. And what I think, again, brought this up in the editing, but what I loved about your story, and you weren't the only person who sent us something with a neurodivergent main character, but yours was the one that really did it in a show don't tell way. A lot of the other stories were coming to us and they were really explaining the condition and having the character explain themselves, which didn't really feel authentic, and it felt a little bit forced. Whereas the way Xander's presented, it's just you know straight away he's got this particular headspace and this particular way of looking at the world. And I don't think you even like sort of actually put a name to his condition until towards the very end. And I really liked that. I thought you absolutely brought us into that character and got us to sort of appreciate him as a character, not looking at him in the vein of any kind of condition that he might have. So could you talk a little bit about your choice to tell the story of this character and how you went about characterizing him?
Yeah. No, thank you. This is exactly what I was going for. I didn't want to make it about his neurodiversity. It's a part of him, of course, but it doesn't, define him. So I didn't want to reduce him to that. Well, when I saw the submission call, the not so normal narrators, I was like, that's so interesting. I really want to write something for that. And I'm someone who likes to explore new things as a writer. So I'm not always writing what I know, but what I want to know and what I want to explore. So I was thinking, okay, I was looking at representation in books and YA, and it has improved a lot though. When I look at in the past the books with normal protagonists, I mean our world is diverse, so I think it should be reflected in the books for young people especially. And I have a cousin in Greece who has Asperger's, and I met him for the first time 10 years ago when I visited, and I could tell he's different, you know, but I had no idea what Asperger's entails really. I wasn't familiar with that, and I was thinking about him when I started writing, and I did my research. I was looking up forums and people with experience, and what I always used to do is kind of like an actor, like method acting. So I'm reading all that information about Asperger's or autism, and then I'm trying to become that character. And I think this is why it was more like showing and not telling, because I was him in that moment. Yeah. So I was writing from his perspective, and the more I the more I know about a character and about actually the research that I'm doing, I think the more realistically I can actually put it, or show it in the story. So I'm glad you noticed, because this is exactly what I was trying to do. And yeah, it started with the character, and then I came up with the plot. And when I read about neurodivergent kids and um, those not typical, but the behavior they display. I also read about the pets. So if they have a pet, they're really affectionate with their pets. And there were other things that I included, like he meets his routines. Yeah. So I tried to include this, or kind of like a symbiosis with a story. So it doesn't look like a list of things I want to show people that he's neurodiverse. And
Mm.
I hope that it worked out.
Well, it definitely did. I just wanted to talk briefly about your use of character in the story, not just Xander, but you actually have about 8 or 9 principal characters in this short
Yeah.
story. And I usually, because when I write short stories, I mean, which I feel sometimes a lot more comfortable writing novels, because then I know I can have a big cast
Right.
of characters and there's plenty of time to explore. I'm usually play it safe with short stories where I'll only have like 2 or 3 characters at the most. But I have to say, one of the things that astonished me about this short story is you had a whole family for Xander. You had friends and love interest at his school, and then you also have this amazing relationship he starts up with this initially quite crotchety, grumpy neighbor called, is it Mr. Sakulis?
Yeah, Sakulis.
Sakulis, yeah, fantastic character. And so and all of them seem so well drawn. Again, this is this economical use of writing that you have. I think all those characters felt authentic and they felt like fully realized in a very short amount of time. So I have to commend you for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I really particularly loved, as you just mentioned, that it all revolves around this bond between him and his pet lizard who goes missing, and how that sort of really throws his world out of balance. And I suppose his, like you mentioned, others also his routines. But even early on in the story, you know, he really loves talking about reptiles, and it's something that, you know, he's got such a passion for, and he actually has to be told by his family, you're talking too much about your own interests. Right. And he doesn't have that sort of same sort of social savvy to be able to say, oh well, I'm going on too much about something that I'm only interested in, which, you know, I think little touches like that were just a golden way to sort of present this story. So can you talk a little bit about how you managed to do that, like, you know, wonderful thing with characters, and also like so much humor in all the characters, they without ever sort of mocking the characters, you actually managed to make them all very funny.
Thank you. I think that's just my my sense of humor. If you read other stories of mine, there's always this like quirky humor in there. I think that's probably my signature, I guess. If I don't write, something very sad or depressing, but even then I really try to put, something funny in there, because I'm all about hope, and sometimes happy endings. So I don't want it to be too grim. And I think it really fitted there as well in this story, because I mean, it's a YA story, so it shouldn't be too dark. I didn't want to write anything too dark. So yeah, it's a hard question, because I don't know how I'm doing it with the humor. I don't know. I think it's
I think
again,
that optimism, yeah, the optimism is a key thing. Are you finding it easy to keep up like optimism in the current times with everything that's going on in the world?
Yeah, but well, the humor aside, I think with the fact that the characters are come across as real, I think what I did there is the specificity. It's all about giving them like something unique, even if they just show up for, I don't know, just a short time on the page. It was important for me to make them unique and special. Um, it's really hard talking about characters, because as I told you, I'm acting kind of, like becoming my characters. And sometimes I'm writing things that I didn't like, whoa, where did this come from? It came from this character. So I just keep writing and writing, and the characters tell me where I'm going. So it's something I'm doing on an unconscious level, kind of. So it's always hard to talk about characterization and humor in that regard. But
do you do any theater or acting or something of that
no,
sort?
no, that's the funny thing. when I was little, I always wanted to be an actor,
Mm.
but I don't know. It
No,
didn't
me too.
work out. So but I've always been interested in that. So I thought, okay, that's the next best thing is writing because it kind of is like acting, you know. You're becoming all these characters, and I don't know. Uh, so yeah, maybe that helps. I'm not sure, but it's also something that I think it depends. When I write flash fiction or more literary stories, it's different. I don't think I'm that funny there or feeling it that much. If it's YA, I don't know. It just comes naturally, I guess. Yeah, it's really hard to talk about these things when I can't really put my finger on it. But yeah, I
Oh
hope
no,
that helps.
absolutely. I mean, writing is ultimately, as much as you can talk about it, a lot of it is just purely instinctive and whatever you
Yeah.
feel like going with. Um, I was also wondering, are you a pet person yourself?
Excuse me, sorry.
Are you a pet person
A pet,
yourself?
yeah, I love dogs, but
Mm.
I don't have much room, so I hope that I can have a dog at some point in my
Mm.
life. I always say the next 5 years, but I don't know. It depends where I'm gonna be, if I have a garden or not. I don't know. But yeah, I'd love to have a dog. I love animals. I love all animals.
They're the best. Speaking of the next 5 years, I wanted to go on to looking at what your future projects are. Um, Firstly, I want to acknowledge that you were not only published in our anthology, you've got a number of anthologies and magazines that your short stories and flash fiction have appeared in.
Yeah.
So I've been not long on your blog is lovely. So if you want to know where else you can read Tonia's writing, if you go on her blog, she's got links to all the other anthologies or places where her stories have appeared, and there are numerous links you can follow. But as you alluded to earlier in the interview, you have written a novel. So could you talk to us a
Yeah,
little bit? And the novel is also YA, as I understand.
it is. It is. Yeah, it's a
So
YA.
please talk to us about that.
Yeah, it's titled One Beat at a Time,
Mm.
and I finished it this year actually. And I started querying in February. It's a contemporary romance actually, with a bisexual protagonist. So it's a lot of queer characters. There are a lot of queer characters in the novel, which I like, and it's basically it's about family, found family. It's about the people you love, and it doesn't matter if, well, it's really hard because I haven't talked about it that much, but my protagonist wants to be famous, and he thinks that's all that matters. So he wants to be a rock star. But then his parents die, and he has to move to his godfather's place, and this is where he meets his childhood friend again, who is secretly in love with him, and he helps him overcome his grief and rekindle his love or passion for music. So yeah, there are lots of other things happening. I don't want to give too much away, but at the end of the day, it's about you know finding the people you love. That it's important to have friends and accept yourself the way you are, and yeah, and also that friendship is important, um, and yeah, what else? Um, that you can choose who your family is. It doesn't have to be blood, you know. So it's also about that friendship and love and overcoming grief and the power of music. So, but it's basically a love story.
No, it sounds really beautiful. I was actually going to ask you about what your influence of this one would be. I noticed on your blog you got a review of a Jeff Zettner novel, who is I'm a big fan of his books, and I was immediately thinking when you described in this book, that's like sounds like something like a Jeff Zettner story, because it deals with that sort of not only first romance, which is often in his stories, but that thing of, like you say, found family among friends,
Yeah,
and also grief, which is a big part of a lot of what he
right.
writes. We're dealing with grief and loss at an early age, so
Exactly. Yeah.
it definitely feels like there's it's something that would fit into something that's already quite prevalent in YA, and also just having like queer protagonists is becoming a lot more. There's a door that's open for that now in YA, certainly.
Yeah. And there's lots of humor. So I think there's more humor than in Jeff's book. Sorry, Jeff. But yeah, it sounds a bit, not depressing, but sad, but it's not. I mean, in the beginning, of course, the accident happens and he's losing his parents, but after that, it becomes more upbeat and fun. So it has a happy ending. It has a happy ending. That was very important for me. And yeah, so I used Jeff Zentner's book as a comparative title, actually, and together with Only Mostly Devastated. So these are my two comp titles.
Yeah, I like that one as well. Oh, yeah, fantastic. Well, I would love to read it at some point. As you know, I've already been asking you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll come back to you.
You better. Okay, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you, Tonia. After sending back and forth a lot of edits over a year ago now.
It's been so long.
Yeah, and like I say, I'm really keen to see what you do next, because I absolutely love Hugo, and I'm very confident that you'll only go on to bigger and better things. So
thank you so much.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come and take part in this interview. It's been lovely to chat to you face to face ish.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great fun. Thank you so much.